bit about about some of segmentation targeting, and we'll be adding positioning. So I left off here talking about hired state that the want is in design. Third definition that and important thing to realize is that the ability to buy equals its willingness and requires ability. Otherwise, there's hard to buy a Testarossa world, but I don't have $1.9 to come out. So quite honestly, there is no. Talked about the Polaroid. '70s. Closing price point that wish to buy that. Fortunately, it didn't sell, and so recognize. Talked about the consumer buying process. Break it down a little bit more, and so talk about whether it's unthought or sought. Want. So, so how do we, as marketers, go about stimulating the information search? Well, there's two. One of them is basically a passive information. Very kind of. Classic example. Food. Nobody has to tell you what a try to do is show that in the normal interaction with a life. Active information search is dedicated towards fulfilling that desire for a need, or excuse me, a want, and that information is put out as quickly. Passive search active information. I have been concerned about my daughter's birthday is coming up on April 15th, and wants a Nintendo Switch. Well, tomorrow, pre-ordering for the. I've been in the Oliver. I'm gonna talk to her. And honey, the pre-order for the. I don't want it. But what do you mean? Well, I've already looked at them. Weekends, the Switch 2 is fine. Daughter has already gone through active information search, exactly what she wants. She doesn't necessarily go through the consumer buying process because she didn't come up with the need. That's satisfied. One of the sources of information that we they call on that we trust the most, personal experience. Those personal experiences are the ones that we draw from ourselves, and other personal experiences, those in which we have. So let's put the house, but on the other end, mass advertising. So, conundrum we have with control of the message, mass advertising has control. Word of mouth has word of mouth is that free world in which possibly that individual area, no matter how many times the message change personal interaction. If I can't get a group of individuals through social by item, the next best thing. Influencers are valuable and important in other outlets. But the difficulty with influencers is that they must have the same word of mouth individual. Otherwise, influence kills. And we as consumers. So, along with this, however, I should have said, most trust so what we hope to do, very honest message that minimize impact in terms of wrong. Hopefully have high word of mouth with most trust in. Hopefully that will carry the consumer of the best possible face on the island. Sources are those outside of ourselves. How they're displayed. Salesperson talk about is the most expensive, but it is the most trusted. Also has the overcoming objections of the out of sales. Interesting about sales. If you go into that session, like undergrad. Operation, without you having to go by yourself. So those unique salespeople, especially in the day, tasks, yet, and something $1 billion. Now, search, we have the issue. Subject. Well, as with everything, risk can be, but it can. Well, actual cost of the search itself is also dependent amount of risk that is. There is no risk at all barring it. Usually, we narrow down the process to products that those are what are known as thinking about the cost of many others. So what we usually do is we categorize those particular qualities that we can value that we come up with what. Of course, brand loyalty and knowing of what item is how we're going to our first talking about computers. There, we think cell phones, Samsung, Apple, maybe. Well, bulk set are those choices. Then, what we have to do, evaluate alternatives, not necessarily look at one of the things, not look at more than four attributes separately. Bundle those attributes. One of the arguments I talked about atmospheric places that we feel better. And the atmospheric lighting, crowding, and a lot of other things. Had this answer ready for mine. How can you evaluate more of those? And I basically said, evaluation are your while some attributes have importance, levels importance, consumers, and they drive capacity. Realize that the choice and buy yet marketing research us What's criteria for you? So what would you consider to be criteria? So would you want them to advertise to you with some? What would you want to say? What would be the thing that would throw this? Here's my thing. But what I would do if I were a carrier is I would make it very advantageous. That's what I would, but I don't know that out, see how you do this. Come out with an evoked set and an opportunity to be able to. What's your choice? Well, that's a very, we're all in when I was in college, have a very sizable choices, but I'm programmed for be those particular, that's what makes it good. How you go about evaluating the alternative. So make the choice. And again, talked about time. One of those things, eligible. How can I help you out? What I hope to do is make the purchase easy, reduce the risk, all risk, finance. Otherwise, come out with unique solutions for your particular problem. So there used to be a pretty brilliant campaign. From especially utility. Not sure of this. So go in. Then on Friday, they would say, "Oh, you take ready to go." Probably run say, already got you a bar. But try to do is try to make the right item available. Session utility be able to make it. Taylor came up with marketing doesn't because we so make the choice. Pull the trigger. Then what I have to do is do the best I can working with the post-purchase evaluation. Connection between buying and title was marketing. Always been branded more important. So there's substantial and it costs 4 times. So if I customer base satisfying and rewarding relationship, hopefully we have 4 possible outcomes. First is delight. Delight is when in other words, affected this first thought about it, it was actually better. Also one of the reasons hope that that can satisfaction just means expected this to happen, it happened. Dissatisfaction fails to meet. That's satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Action. Failure. Last is a concept from psychology known as cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance basically says that the overall evaluation, not what I expected, it is not a failure, but it is not what I expected. So it might be good, bad, but it's wonkiness in there. That means that it didn't. Cognitive dissonance, but usually yes. And it can be a satisfying experience, but it might not be thought it was going to be a good thing. Because if your expectations fail, why also service failure, long can actually lessen if you fail up. In other words, perhaps you go to a hotel, up, fall down and say the room, but he gets there right away, and then as a thank you, give me, they may give you. That would be cognitive dissonance. Actually, you are likely satisfaction. Are you increasing? The opportunity cost, by the way, are those give up. So, gave up the chance for again other particular. Now there were a bunch of opportunity costs up. Finally, if the person moving, they have what's called stress index life event. So one of those is both saying that personally the next. So decisions that involve emotion, they're good. Also create sadness, especially if you live. What are some of the other factors? Let's see. Complexity of the decision. The complexity of the decision also affects the buying process. When there are so many different evaluations that are required, they can make it difficult for you. My wife chose the same model, except it was a 20. Every single previous model had minimize the complexity. Individual differences of the way we perceive attitudes and opinions. Cultures and things that we have. Friday before Easter, crawfish. Why? That is a social event. That is an expectation. Because where I grew up, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday were known as Tritium, and we no longer had to fast, and that's when we could work. And finally, the situational influence, those things that time and effort devoted to the task, difficulty of making, lack of time. Finish this on Thursday.